Guys, welcome back to another episode of Sludge Underground, and sticking with our line of interviewing all the finalists for the Wacken Metal Battle Sub-Saharan Africa, I have the I almost said main man, main woman themselves. Sash, introduce yourself and what it is you do.
My name is Sash. I am a music promoter in South Africa. And for the purposes of this interview, I am the metal battle promoter for the Wacken Metal Battle Sub Saharan African region.
Yeah, fantastic. And this is the how manyth year you have been doing this at this point?
So I've been involved with the metal battle since 2013. I started off as a judge and then kind of got involved a little bit more with the admin, like booking venues, helping decide lineups, and then I took it over in 2017. So that's this is what, my eighth year now of running it.
That is still a long time. I mean, 10 years over 10 years of being involved in it, as well as 8 years of actually running it yourself is nothing to scoff at, really. And it's not an easy event to organize. So it's what you'll go into a bit more detail of what it entails, but how it started out was obviously within South Africa itself, and it is expanded beyond South Africa. Just dive into a bit more detail regarding that.
It ran just in South Africa up until 2023. So the last time it was just South Africa was 2019, the other Facing the Gallows went. And then we were due to take a break, and then COVID hit. And so it landed up, Wacken was cancelled, I think 2 years in a row because of COVID. And so we landed up coming back in 2023. And there have been a lot of countries who have been interested in, getting involved in Wacken, and there are only 30 slots at the festival itself. So we've tried to create these regions. So you'll see that there are a couple of regions in the battle, like the Indian subcontinent, I think Central America, the Caribbean, the Balkan regions. So yeah, so when I was approached with this idea, I was like, it's wild. I don't know. Let's see how it works out. And so we did it for the first time in 2023, and somehow it worked out. Actually, not somehow. It worked out thank you to the Wacken Foundation, who are the charity branch of the Wacken Music Festival, and they have sponsored us consistently the last 3 years in order to have this region be a thing in terms of bringing these bands from these other African countries to South Africa to compete in a final. Yeah, so this is the third year we've been doing it. It's a lot. It's crazy. Every year I don't know how we pull it together, but we do. And yeah, just huge shout out to the foundation, because without them, this would not be a thing.
One of the things that we've been chatting about a lot is that how that this with the foundation, with that involvement, and how the concept of the regions and how it's working is slowly but surely kind of uniting African metal as a whole. And we're seeing bands that we wouldn't have otherwise seen from Botswana, from Namibia, from a place like Kenya, which is quite isolated from the rest of the metal community, with Mozambique and all those type of things. And it's creating an interesting awareness, especially amongst South African artists and the people who go to these shows. And the more awareness about of it that there is, the better it is for not just our scene but for theirs as well, because it creates this whole thing of there's some kind of spectacle. There's something to be like, hey, this is cool. First of all, I didn't know we had this. Second of all, they're going to like another country to play. It's generally beneficial all around.
Yeah, and like I think what's been really cool now in this third year is seeing how much development that there has been in some of these countries, particularly in Mozambique, in Angola. I mean, they went from in 2023 having one band submit to this year having like a pretty massive show. Like, I think there were over 250 people in that crowd. There were over six bands that competed. There are bands who have formed in some of these countries to be able to compete in the battle. So that's really fucking cool. Um, and yes, definitely like the networking between bands from South Africa and these finest bands who come here and creating a spotlight and an industry um, around everyone that works with the metal genre in Africa. Like, it's cool, man. It's cool to see that growth, that development. We're seeing more content creators come out of Kenya. You know, we're seeing bands from South Africa and Namibia tour each other's countries. So it's opening up these roots and these connections between people, and hopefully that brings more African people into metal, and we can really start to build some kind of a sustainable industry. Hopefully, maybe.
It's cool, like what you're saying about Angola, where it has gone from virtually nothing. I mean, I spoke to the guys yesterday. I spoke to Eternal Catastrophe yesterday, where there was virtually nothing, like you said, 2 years ago, and now there are, like, it's inspired people to start making music, which is that not the point? Is that not, like, you want that legacy to carry on. You want there to be new bands, and if that's the trigger for it, so fucking be it. And hopefully with Kenya, like my idea, or like my hope with Kenya is that Irony Destroyed has their shit together more than some South African bands, if I'm going to be brutally honest. Okay, they've got they've got their stuff together really, really well. And if they don't inspire more Kenyans to get involved in that music, that's crazy, because those lads are on top of it. It's actually wild.
Yeah, so there were like your Kenyan people are super friendly. I had like the best time. And that's another incredible thing about this battle is that connection that we're able to make. So, when I was approached to do this region, I was like, who the fuck do I know in Kenya? And a very good friend of mine, her husband is Kenyan, and her and her husband had immigrated to Kenya. And I'd seen, following her socials, that she'd been going to shows. Her name is Portia. And, I asked her, and she put me into contact with the guy that runs Rock Society of Kenya. And, we've had a battle there now 3 years. And just to see how many people came together, particularly this year, to make that show happen. There's been great content, interviews, TV interviews, radio interviews. Um, you know, those bands, they've been on Al Jazeera, they're making it onto these like international kind of playlists and podcasts like Coffee and Metal. So, yeah, that's been really, really cool to see. And the people were great. And the bands were amazing. Both competing bands, Irony Destroyed and Chovu. Man, Chovu was so cool. Watching like this traditional form and like very traditional and inspired by African folk tales and legends um, with like this black metal, like and the white outfits. Incredible. Like, I never thought I would experience something so authentically African metal, and particularly black metal in my life. It was fucking incredible to see. So yeah. Again, that just shows like how much this battle is highlighting bands from Africa, which is cool.
Yeah, I mean, they define themselves as shamanic black metal, I believe. And like, if you just look at the photographs of like what they've got, and it's it's intense. It's cool. Like, it's yeah. I would have loved to see that. I would have loved to see them here as well. But damn, what a cool concept for a band. And like you said, how so like uniquely African in that regard and making it your own. Like I wonder sometimes how like with the chats that I've been having with the African bands, like I wonder sometimes if their isolation from the rest of the world's metal community doesn't make their music more unique because they're not really necessarily being influenced too much by that, like, oh, you have to sound this way. They're kind of just doing whatever the fuck they want, which is what for me metal always was, is kind of just doing whatever the hell you want to do. And I feel like that's why a lot of the stuff coming from the African bands has such a different vibe to it.
Yeah, I think in some places, definitely, there's this legend that bands in Botswana discovered Iron Maiden art kind of in the early 90s, before the internet was a thing, and they saw that imagery and kind of just adjusted their metal personas around that fucking imagery, that Iron Maiden, Cannibal Corpse, those early day imagery. And you see that in a lot of like their aliases and their outfits, and their music as well. I think, in bands that, or rather in countries that do have more exposure to international metal, they are very heavily influenced by like those bands. So I know, like, Mozambique's not that far. Mozambique has a big death metal community. When death metal was really big, and we had a lot of death metal bands coming to South Africa, with Witchfest and whatever. I think that had an influence on Mozambique's.
Like something that I've said like a couple of times through my chats is that the biggest group of people within South Africa who like metal music in general are the people who do not know that there is a South African scene. And one thing, like, or who do not know that there is alternative or heavy, there is a heavy music scene, or that there is heavy bands. You can see a lot of guys who like will express an interest in that type of music, but have no idea that there are bands on their doorstep, and their neighbors who are on par. And it's actually it's crazy. And speaking earlier, we were having a chat about Everyday Metalhead. They are doing like the Lord's work in terms of getting people who are fans of heavy music within South Africa and converting those people into fans of South African bands. I'm a part of their groups and whatnot, and the amount of people I've seen who have never heard a South African band prior to joining that group, who are coming to the Wacken finals because of that, is wild. And the way that people are being introduced to local music and so on. So that's it's definitely creating that. How do I say that? Uh, I want to say spectacle, but it feels like the wrong word. But it's creating an energy around it, and it's definitely drawing new people in.
I think it's really cool how Everyday Metalhead is, connecting people from across the country, and creating like chats and discussions about bands, and like a cool, like, you know, kind of like not shitty and clicky platform where you can talk about bands that you like, and comment about new music, and share about shows and shit. Like, that's very cool. Yeah, shout out to those guys. We can't wait to see you at the finals.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, how are you feeling about this year's finals? How are you feeling going into it, knowing that it is, we have all of our finalists. There's obviously still a lot of work to be done heading up to this coming Saturday. How are you feeling about it?
Well, we're a week away, so less than a week away. We're like 5 days away. So I think that I'm prepared as can be for the absolute logistical megalodon that is about to unfold. Um, Yeah, it's been a lot of work. This project is, as it kind of, as we learn and as we grow and as we develop, we figure out how to make it better. And doing that requires a lot of like manpower and a lot of planning and a lot of involvement from a lot of people. So I've been really blessed this year to have people come on board to help me. So Lana, who's helping me, like, handle a lot of the, not just the social media, but a lot of like the logistics, the soundboarding, the ideas, the kind of feedback, keeping me in the loop, communications. We've had Sam McIntosh. For those of you who don't know, she's the front woman from Fading Grey. She's been on Sludge. Go check out the interview. She dropped some wise words. We've known each other for years, and this year she was like, "Hey, Sash, I'm keen to get involved. I'm keen to help." So I was like, "Cool." One of the biggest nightmares of this battle is arranging transport and accommodation and hosting and travel for 50 bands, because ultimately we have 8 bands who are touring from outside of Johannesburg, who are flying into Joburg at different times on different days. So we need to find a guest house who can accommodate them all. We have to arrange transportation for them to and from, the airport, to and from the venue. And shout out to the Wacken Foundation once again, because they helped us put all of that together. But Sam really managed the logistics and the communication behind all of that. Yeah, and then we've had Russell, who's really helped pull like the content team together. He's done all the promo videos. He's handled all that communication. He's handled all the liaising with the photographers, from not just around the country but around the continent as well. So yeah, it's been really cool to have that support from everyone and that buy-in from everyone this year. Um, so I'm feeling quite confident that everything that I can possibly do to make this go smoothly and according to plan is done. Just waiting for one last person to get their visa. Then I can finalize all these jury members, and yeah, we're good to go. I just need a lot of metalheads. Yeah, we need a lot of metalheads to show up, please. Because one thing we don't have is, other than the foundation, is sponsors. So it is a really expensive thing to be able to send a band to Wacken, and yeah, buy tickets to shows, support the backer buddy, and what we're trying to do to grow and create African metal and an industry.
So, with all your time, like in doing this, the amount of time that you've been doing, being a part of the Vodka Metal Battle and managing it, and just the amount of time that you've spent doing this, what would you say is like one of your favorite memories of all time being involved with the Wacken Metal Battle in South Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa?
Probably one of my favorite memories is actually at last year's Wacken in Germany, when we went to go and watch the Black Dahlia murder. It had just started raining. Wacken can be notorious for rain. So I was with Lana and we were walking back to go get like rain gear. And I turned to her and I was like, the boys are going to be watching Dahlia. They're playing right here. If we cut across, we'll probably find them. Let's just go. And she was like, fuck yeah, let's go. And we found the guys from Sunken State in the pits, and we just partied so hard. And it was such a cool, like, 360 moment, being with the guys from Sunken State at Wacken, watching Black Dahlia murder, which was my third time seeing them, because my first Wacken, I'd watched Black Dahlia with Metal Battle winners that year, in 2016. And then I'd watched Sunken State play with Dahlia at Ramfest. um, just before we had that shutdown. So that was a really cool memory. But otherwise, probably the coolest thing in all of the years is definitely the relationships with people that I've built across the globe. Um, uh, Being exposed to new bands from, a plethora of countries: Lithuania, Argentina, um, the Caribbean. Yeah, I do value those relationships with not just South African, but global metalheads as well.
No, that's absolutely fantastic. That's such a like the sunken state thing with the in the pit with Dahlia in the background. That feels like such a cathartic moment of like, holy shit, we're actually here. Holy shit, we're doing this. And like I can only imagine, man, that must have been absolutely fantastic. And those relationships, it makes you really appreciate not just your scene but what's happening globally, because it gives you like perspective, having like those direct sort of like lines into scenes from other countries. It's not so much of a outside looking in, you have an actual like line into it. I brought this up in one of my previous interviews with a friend that I'd made in Tunisia, and like she is my direct line into like on the ground what's happening in their scene. I don't have to kind of like research from the like the outside and look in. She gives me like fucking video clips and daily and updates and stuff.
Yeah, it's cool, man, to really like the metal battle does connect you to like underground people that are just like you from across the world, man, like the Philippines, Indonesia, Southeast Asia's like metal scene, like, we've got good friends there who are just promoters like us, doing their things on the ground, putting shows together at their local bars on a Friday night. And these are just great people to connect with and see how their scenes do things and what you can learn from them and what we can learn from each other. Yeah, it's pretty fucking cool.
Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, on that note, thank you so much for taking the time to have a chat with me today. It's been an absolute blast. I will see you on Saturday.
I'll see you on Saturday, guys. Thanks, myself. Thanks, Ludge. You guys are the best. You're my favorite, uh, best fucking podcast in the whole of Africa when it comes to alternative music. So keep doing the Lord's work.
Thank you so much, dude. I can't express how much I appreciate that.